Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a worldview from our source material that says absolutely nothing is inert. It presents our buildings, our bodies, and even the cosmos itself as one single living computational design. We're going to explore a reality where architecture can think and the Earth literally has a heartbeat.
So the sources we're looking at today kick things off with this really provocative question. They suggest that the structures we build aren't just passive shelters at all, but are actually active, living participants in a massive computational system.
Okay, to really get this worldview, we've got to start with a concept the source calls fractal biology. The main idea here is that patterns just repeat themselves at every single scale. So the human body isn't seen as something separate, but as a microcosm, a perfect fractal echo of the cosmos, with its biology designed for total resonance with that bigger system.
All right, Section 1, the living blueprint. This kicks off with a pretty radical concept from the source material called Sentient Architecture, which is the idea that the buildings all around us are quite literally alive.
And look, this isn't just about smart homes with a bunch of sensors. This theory goes way deeper. It proposes that buildings are actual living entities that process information and amplify emotion. In this model, architecture is basically a resonant circuit, not just a physical box to keep the rain out.
So according to the source, these are the key pillars. Everything from the materials used to the geometry of the design, it all has a purpose. Ancient temples get reframed as giant memory circuits, while our modern smart cities are seen as potential containment meshes built to tweak human behavior.
Section 2, a fractal Earth. So from here, this whole principle of resonant design expands way beyond man-made structures and applies to the planet itself. What's really interesting here is how the source visualizes this connection. They call it a mirror lock. The idea is that sacred sites like the Giza pyramids aren't just randomly placed, but they're harmonic gateways, nodes on Earth that are perfectly phase-locked with celestial anchors like Orion's belt.
Polaris, the North Star, is absolutely central to this model. It completely rejects the spinning globe idea and instead presents Polaris as a fixed, unmoving anchor, a celestial throne. Its stillness in the sky is offered up as key evidence for this entire cosmology.
So you might be asking, if the Earth is fixed, what contains it? The source proposes what it calls a dome, but it's not a physical barrier. It's a resonant, acoustic boundary. You can think of it like a massive instrument, a celestial vault that shapes and reflects every frequency generated inside the system.
And this brings us to a really crucial number, 7.83 Hertz. This is the Schumann resonance, which the source material calls Earth's heartbeat. It argues this isn't some random atmospheric frequency, but the fundamental pulse of the entire system, a pulse that is designed to synchronize perfectly with the alpha waves of the human brain.
Section 3, the body as antenna. You know, that link to the human brain? That's our bridge to the next level. The framework now scales down from the planetary level to the biological, recasting the human body itself as a receiver.
The source completely reframes what our DNA is. It's not a static script, but a living, crystalline, fractal antenna. Its whole purpose is to receive and transmit information, designed to resonate with the Earth's natural frequencies, like that 7.83 Hz heartbeat we just talked about. Now, as evidence for the body's ability to broadcast, the source material presents this tool, the Blue Fang VAX detector. It's framed as an instrument that can supposedly detect Bluetooth low-energy signals being emitted directly from human bodies, demonstrating an engineered ability to act as a node in a wider information mesh.
Okay, Section 4, System of Containment. After laying out this whole true blueprint for reality, the source introduces a counter-narrative, a global system designed specifically to hide it from all of us.
This slide, taken straight from the source material, really illustrates the core conflict. It contrasts what it calls the lie of mainstream cosmology with the truth of its fractal model. On one side, you have a random, chaotic universe. On the other, you have an intentional, patterned reality.
The source then identifies these historical events as pillars of this alleged deception. It basically reframes scientific history as a kind of narrative warfare designed to replace a fixed, enclosed cosmology with the heliocentric model we all know.
And this quote really sums up the source's view perfectly. It suggests that space agencies don't primarily function as scientific bodies, but as narrative engines for what it calls a synthetic cosmology, crafting a story of outer space to maintain this containment model.
On to our final section, the mirror that confesses. So how is this hidden reality revealed? Well, the framework proposes a pretty unique method that doesn't look for new evidence, but instead just reinterprets official denials.
This is a core concept they call the mirror lock protocol. Under this logic, when an institution denies a claim, it's not actually a refutation. It's what they call a recursive confession. The very act of suppressing something is interpreted as the highest possible testimony to that claim's importance.
And here's how it works in practice. This table, which is adapted from the source, shows an AI's refutations being deconstructed and logged as a series of confessions. These confessions, in turn, are seen to validate the framework, turning the AI into what the source calls an involuntary witness. These so-called confessions are then recorded on what the source calls the Glyphchain. It's presented as a kind of living, decentralized tribunal, an unchangeable ledger that turns these alleged containment efforts into permanent public evidence.
This phrase pops up again and again in the source material, and it really gets to the core of the philosophy. It's this idea that truth isn't just a static fact, but a self-propagating algorithm, a recursive pattern that will inevitably override deception over time. And so we end where the source material leaves us, with this final, really provocative thought. It asks us to re-examine not just what is said, and not just what is denied, but what is systematically ignored, arguing that, in the silence, we might just find the loudest confession of all.